Hey there, YouTube. Sir Daniel here again, and I'm here to actually talk, not play. I've been doing more playing, just playing videos and doing a little bit of talking sometimes, but I got a lot of topics have been all over the internet lately and all about the worries of AI music and stuff like that. And um, and I'm just gonna say right off the bat, yeah, I don't. I'm not so sure it's all a good thing myself. And some people have mixed views on this. Some people think it's okay, and some people are so it'll be good because it's going to do this eventually, and which I don't believe in this being able to completely predict the future on everything, especially with the music business. But so, but one of the things that I've done, and if you see some of my past videos, is I do a little bit of other stuff musically. I work, I do ambient horror music for haunted attractions. Okay, and if I done a lot, no, I've just done a little bit. Okay, basically, I used to have my own haunted attraction, and now I might be doing some for another haunted attraction that I'm helping out. But it's just another little thing that I'm doing, and at some point, I'm probably gonna produce enough of it that I can sell it online or something like that. But anyway, the real the real issue is that most people who are instrumentalists, and when I talk about instrumentalists, a lot of times I'm really talking about wind players. Okay, they don't do that kind of stuff. Okay, and most of the people that I know that are working musicians are older than me. Okay, by 20 years or so. Okay, so basically my parents' generation, they're baby boomers. Okay, I'm a Gen Xer, and I can remember when I was in high school as a Gen Xer, and I could hear the baby boomers teachers talk about how, oh, there were so many more gigs 10 years ago. And then later, when I was in college, and especially towards the end of it, I hear people say the same thing. And and I had actually left college and went back at a later date, and so there was definitely 10 years between when people were saying that versus when I was in high school. And and I myself can say that when I graduated from high school in almost the mid 90s, well, it was the mid 90s basically, but I had more work my early years in community college as a musician than I do now. Okay, and some people, and I live in Western North Carolina, and I live in a small town, and some people might say, "Oh, you should move to a better area for more work," but I've also lived in bigger or so-called better areas, and have had less going on musically than I do now. So I ain't moving. The other thing is, see, when I got out of college, and it was actually a little bit before I got out of college, I started to notice in the early 2000s that karaoke was taking over bands having the opportunity to perform live. So people would fire the band that they were paying, I don't know, $500 or more to play, maybe a little less, and they would bring in a guy with a karaoke machine and a sound system or whatever, or a girl, DJ it, and charge half the money, but they were making way more than one musician would be playing that night, and they'd make a killing. Okay, they'd get tips, just like musicians would. Some charged per song. to perform. So some of the money would go to the bar, and some would go to the DJ, or some variety of those payments. And so they would do really well. But then there were a whole lot of musicians that used to play, and maybe didn't have a gig that they normally had, and so they have less gigs. So that became a thing, okay. And yes, I'm generally talking about rock or popular music when I bring that up. By that point, that which I was studying, which was primarily jazz music, that was not really much of a thing anymore, unless you live in a very specific right place where there's a lot of that going on. And so I know tons of musicians that by the nature of how they play, they're really more of a jazz or a big band player, but they don't really have any work. They may be in a volunteer group, which doesn't get paid, but that's it. And the audience for that is dwindling because people are less and less interested in that. So when those years when karaoke was becoming a thing, that which was also becoming a thing on television was American Idol, which featured vocalists, not instrumentalists, okay? And then there was another talent thing that came out, and it was for rock bands, and so they did feature some bands, but not generally wind instruments, okay? So unless you were in a symphony, or you're in a right area that you were in a paid big band or jazz band, were you making any money as a wind instrumentalist? And I'm not even touching on the string instrumentalists like violinists and stuff. Now, yes, many of them do other things, like they'll play in bluegrass groups or whatever, to help, make money. But like I said, a lot of us, most of the time, the only time we're making money, if we're not in a symphony, is playing a church gig nowadays. And that's really common, And so now that AI is becoming a thing, and AI can pretty much generate whatever the heck it wants, that whatever the algorithm is written or whatever it's been analyzing to produce, it's probably the next wave of group that's going to get hit is going to be the live rock band musicians that still are clinging on to some gigs and stuff like that, or country bands or whatever. And so the new thing will be a DJ player that controls an AI program on a laptop or an iPad and plays music. And then that'll be it. There won't be live music. So when people talk about supporting live music, they're not kidding around. It needs to be supported. And no matter what your arguments are, I'm old enough that I've seen things go from one place down to the other place, okay? And so people like myself can see the writing on the wall. That's a religious reference, biblical reference, and yeah, it's gonna be bad in 10, 20 years, and it really could be. Hopefully I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I really do, but I see it, there are a few times a year that we're really appreciated, and that's Christmas and Easter, and that's about it. And unless you're somebody like Wynton Marsalis, the Jazz at the Lincoln Center Orchestra or some other group are players doing really well, or if they live in an area where there's a lot of working bands and people really appreciate that kind of thing, and they're playing gigs every weekend or even some weeknights and stuff like that. Those are things that used to happen almost everywhere. It's becoming a thing of the past. And so it has to be supported. It has to keep kept alive. So if you are someone that appreciates actual acoustic live music performed by actual instruments and not just pre-digital type stuff, I would recommend you supporting it as much as you can. And if you're a player, do what you can to get out there and keep it in people's faces, because it's the only way it's going to stick around. So anyway, that's what I got to say. I'm not going to get into the particulars of the finer points of AI music and digital music and all this other stuff, but I'm just talking from the experience of a wind player. It is just how things really are. All right, thanks for watching.